There are people who choose to make a positive difference in the world. Our job is to bring you their stories to motivate you to do the same. Join us each week, hosts John Alexander and Naima Latif, as we bring you the educators, entertainers, elected officials, religious leaders, and community activists whose works are transforming this world. Find out how you can make a difference too. Be inspired. Watch The Media Connection. Thank you for joining us on The Media Connection. We're here at the Peoria County Courthouse where supporters of Johnnie Lee Savory, who was wrongfully convicted at 14 of a crime he didn't commit and served 30 years in prison, be finally exonerated by the testing of the DNA evidence that's available. We're here to hear those supporters as they ask that this case finally be put to rest and Johnnie Lee Savory be exonerated and he can finally get his life back. We'll be back with some of those supporters as they talk about why they're supporting Johnnie Savory and what must be done to finally get justice.
What I think about Johnnie Savory, I think he is a great man of God with great character. I think he has great convictions, and I believe in him. And to Johnnie and God be the glory. I think also it's the fact that this is a long time coming. And the fact that he did not waver and did not accept a plea bargain and he was willing to stand his term because he believed, that's great faith. That's great faith in God. And for that reason, I'm here today because his convictions.
I came out to support Johnnie Savory because he was such a young man. He lost all his life to being in prison. 13 years old, that's a long time to be in prison. And I think he should be listened to and apologized to and give some kind of money for. He's a nice young man. He helped these young kids now. He do what he can. Just think what he could have did with his life if he'd have been here.
Well, I came out today in behalf of Johnnie Savory, among many others as well, because I think it's unfair when even our alleged criminals cannot receive a fair investigation or a fair hearing and everything. And it's something that really the whole public itself needs to become aware of, because sooner or later, at some point in time, we are going to be involved in the legal system.
That's really something else, because when he first came to Rainbow Push and became one of our staff members, it was really, really hard to understand that this was somebody who had been wrongfully convicted and had been in prison for 30 years for something he did not do, because his spirit did not convey that. And I just, we've just always respected him for that, and we're going to stand by him whatever he needs.
Johnnie is always helping somebody. That's the gift about it. He puts himself into what is right. Not just, he even put himself into the children. He put himself into things that he knows that are good.
I believe that the situation with Mr. Johnnie Savory should be resolved, and they give the DNA test as proof of evidence that there was no negativity on his part, and that the state of Illinois and everybody involved should get together to resolve the case so that it's a positive outcome toward the injustice that was created in his life. And I believe that the state legislature and the governor should overlook this case and resolve it immediately, and give him the righteousness that he deserved for the life that he has had in the past, but also the life that he is living now for the future.
I feel that it's necessary for people, if they can, to come out and support people, or for a cause that they, especially if they've been following, keeping up with things. And I think if you can support somebody in this and you feel that it's right to come out and support it, and that's what I make up my mind to do things like that. I believe in Dr. King, so I supported him. I marched with him. I came out, I was very young, but I came out anyway. But there's a lot of people that would like to that can't. So we're supporting where we can.
The impact that he had on the people, I mean, the fact that he served so many years and he came out and willing to give himself to help others who was wrongfully convicted, I think that is just a great spirit. Because, you know, a lot of people come out with selfishness, and they come out thinking about themselves or what they want to do. But Johnny came out saying, I want to clear my name, but I also want to help others to do the same. And then that's just a great convictions with great character and great confidence in himself. And for that reason, I respect him, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help him get through his time.
I'm hoping that not only this trip here, but any trips and future amendments will, you know, eradicate some of the undoings that have led the public to believe that we don't stand a fair chance if we're not of a certain caliber economically.
First of all, we came out to support him because he's one of our staff members, and I think it's excellent. I think it's terrible the way the state has done him, and I hope that, you know, he gets what he deserves and what he wants to get from the state.
I believe that Johnnie Savory has been a positive role model for the community. He has definitely reached out to a whole bunch of different human beings in different sectors of the society. People who have been through some problems, people who are doing good, and people who are living above and have earned to be in society to live in a positive way for their means and the life that they're living, and the job situations. And he's always been fighting for jobs for others, and he's always been a fighter for others. And from all aspects of the things that we have seen in this society and in different organizations around the state of Illinois, he has been proactive, especially for the negativity of the prison population, since it's something that he experienced and went through himself.
That's when you know that his heart is right, because anybody who's didn't really want to take a plea bargain and was willing to stay in because he knew he was right, because that's what the system is. The system will weight you down and have you confess to something that you didn't do. But yeah, he decided not to do that. And that's a man who knows that he trusts God, because he decided not to accept a plea bargain and to stay. And now he's coming out, and now he's out, and he wants to fight for what is right, and that's his to be clear of these charges.
Hi, this is John Alexander.
And I'm Naima Latif. Meet people like you who are making a positive difference in the world.
Big difference.
Watch us every day on The Media Connection at www.youtube.com/The Media Connection TV.
YouTube it. We'll see you soon.
DNA testing for Johnnie Savory. DNA testing for Johnnie Savory. DNA testing for Johnnie Savory.
Johnnie has become a good friend since he was released from jail, and I see him every Saturday at Push, and he comes and puts his arms around me and kisses me, which not too many men kiss me, but I couldn't stay away from today's hearing because I hope everything's going to work out all right.
My name is Andre Davis, and I spent 32 years in Illinois prison since before a crime I didn't commit. Again, because of DNA testing, 3 series of it, and because of the ruling that was made in Johnnie Savory's case, that I was even able to access my own evidence in my case and prove my innocence.
At Push, we had as many as 10 or 12 different people who have been in jail just like he was for a long time, and they were innocent. And I shook hands with all of them, but I don't know anyone as well as I know Johnnie.
We are all here today seeking justice for Johnnie Lee Savory. As I said, I'm Laura Nyrider, one of Mr. Savory's attorneys here from Northwestern University. And I stand here not only with Johnnie's legal team and students from Northwestern Law School, but with a room full of Johnnie's longtime friends, supporters, and of course, with Johnnie Lee Savory himself. Nearly 35 years ago, Johnnie was convicted of the murder of his friend, James Robinson, and James's sister, Connie Cooper. Johnnie was only 14 years old. During his 30 years behind bars, and even today as a free man, Johnnie has relentlessly insisted that he is innocent of these horrible crimes. That's why today we are filing a motion for DNA testing in Johnnie's case, just filed upstairs. We're doing this to prove once and for all that Johnnie is innocent. We're asking the court to allow us to test 5 key pieces of evidence. First, a knife with trace amounts of blood on it that was taken from the Savory home, which the state argued was the murder weapon. DNA testing will prove that the blood on that knife belonged to Johnnie's father, who had cut himself accidentally with the knife and had absolutely nothing to do with these deaths. Hairs, number 2, hairs found clutched in the victim's hands after they'd struggled with their killer. DNA testing will prove that those hairs did not come from Johnnie Lee Savory. Third, there's some biological material left under Connie Cooper's hands, under her fingernails as she struggled with her killer and scratched him. We'd like to test that biological material. It will prove that Johnnie was not the killer. Fourth, a light switch plate that was taken from the bathroom of the home in which these murders occurred. Prosecutors have always argued that the killer cleaned up in the bathroom after these crimes and touched the light switch plate while he was cleaning up. The real killer could have left skin cells on that light switch plate that now could be tested using what's called touch DNA technology to prove that Johnnie was not the killer. And fifth, swabs of semen that were taken from Ms. Cooper's body. The real killer could have sexually assaulted Ms. Cooper before killing her. Today, and I can't emphasize this enough, it would be routine for the state to test all this evidence before ever proceeding with trial.
That's right.
For the same reason, we believe this should be tested in Johnnie's case, to avoid and to neutralize this wrongful conviction of Johnnie Lee Savory. We are also asking the court to let us compare any DNA test results against the state and federal DNA databases to try to identify the real killer in this case, who has been walking the streets for 35 years. Also, Johnnie's legal team, we've walked the streets of Peoria. We've been trying to speak and find some of the old witnesses in this case. And 3 of the most important witnesses against Johnnie have recanted their trial testimony. And one of them, Ms. Ella Ivey, has even provided an affidavit, a sworn affidavit, urging this court to grant DNA testing. We very much appreciate her honesty and her support. It is a testament to the power of Johnnie's innocence that his efforts are supported by some of the most prominent attorneys in Illinois, who have filed today a friend of the court brief, urging the court to allow this DNA testing to go forward. These individuals include former Governor James Thompson, former U.S. Senator Adlai Stevenson III, and former United States Attorneys Tom Sullivan and Dan Webb. And it's a testament to the power of DNA evidence that Johnnie's efforts are supported by other men in Illinois who have been exonerated through exactly the type of DNA testing that Johnnie is seeking today. To date, 45 individuals in Illinois have been exonerated by DNA evidence. This includes 9 men who have filed another friend of the court brief today urging the court to allow DNA testing in Johnnie's case. 4 of those men are here today in support of Johnnie's motion: Andre Davis, Terrell Swift, Marcus Lyons, and Oscar Walden Jr. Andre Davis, another exoneree.
My name is Andre Davis. Again, I was exonerated for a crime I didn't commit after 32 years incarceration. I want to say that DNA saved my life because it did not. What DNA did for me is just help prove my innocence. 32 years of my life is missing. I had to do a lot of things to sustain myself and to bring myself at this point to be speaking to you guys. DNA didn't do anything to help me arrive here. But what it did do, it brought out the truth. It helped me in some things with my family. And society really needs to know the real strength. This is DNA is a science that gives you the truth. You know, people can come into court, you know, they can lie, they can do whatever. DNA testing will give you really what's going on. It's because of Johnnie Savory case that the U.S. Supreme Court made a ruling that all prisoners in the United States would have access to their evidence and be able to test it to prove their innocence or guilt at any time, regardless to how old the case was. Prior to that ruling, there were statutes depending on what state you lived in which they could collect evidence and actually destroy it after 10 or 15 years. Meaning that if someone wanted to come along later after 16, 17 years, it's very likely that the evidence can be destroyed and he wouldn't be in a position to take DNA testing. Well, because of Johnnie's case, no more. Now evidence has to be held forever. Guys can come later, like myself. I took my first DNA testing 23 years after I was convicted. At the time when I was convicted, there was no such thing as DNA testing. So it helped prove my innocence. It's a way to get to the truth when there are no other vehicles left. Johnnie said it's ironic that so many people around the country have benefited from DNA testing because of Johnnie Savory's ruling and you know, the United States Supreme Court. But yet he's denied the benefit that everyone else was given. To say no, that you can't test the evidence. This is the evidence that they thought was sound enough to convict him. And it's still present. Why deny him access to it? Johnnie says he's innocent. I believe Johnnie's innocent. The evidence is there. Test it. It helped me DNA free. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'd just like to say that it speaks volumes about who Johnnie is, that these other exonerees are here to speak on his behalf. Johnnie has volunteered with Northwestern for months and years, working to help exonerees reintegrate and reacclimate to life on the outside, even while he's been waiting himself for exoneration. It's a tremendous act of generosity on Johnnie's part, and this is gratitude that these men are feeling, I think, for Johnnie. And now I would like to turn the podium over to Johnnie Lee Savory himself, after which we will be taking some questions, only 1 or 2 questions for Johnnie, and the rest of us would be happy to answer questions as well. Johnnie.
Good afternoon. As a tribute to my godmother, Octavia Bishop, I would ask her daughter Sandra and my great friend Beverly to step up here with me. It's with these women of my community that mounted the first support group. They did bake sales. They walked the streets. They collected money all over the city. And the people of Peoria have always given me their support from all segments of society. And I am truly grateful to all the grandmothers and mothers and sisters and daughters who came out and supported me over 35 years ago. Now I think that many others do stand with me today. All my family at Northwestern, I cannot name them all, so I won't even try to name any. I cannot name all those at Jenner and Block. I cannot name those in New York Innocence Project, New Jersey, and all across this country, and even outside this country. And not to mention some of the most awesome students that a university could have. My friend, Elon, and many others. His friend is standing next to him. Chrissy that coordinated this whole thing. And my wonderful mother over there which is Mr. Dolores Kennedy. And the many people, I can't name you all of those who from Push, the staff that work, all those who man the cameras, who would film everything. We got Calvin here, that's a good friend of mine. We got Gwendolyn here, that's a good friend of mine. We got John Alexander. All these people here that are going to capture what takes place today. And I want to say to you that I've always allowed love to rule my soul. bitterness and hatred. What the system did to me, I did not understand it. I did not allow that cancer to come into my life and rob me of this day. When I told them I was coming back in 1981, that was not arrogance. That means the truth will never die. You can't hide it. You can't pretend it didn't exist. And I want to leave you with some words from two Peoria people who meant exactly what they said. Michael Mims, distinguished judge on the federal court. John Barr, who became the Chief Justice here in the 10th Judicial District. Both stated in 1981 there was no evidence to tie Savory to the crime or to the scene of the crime. My. How did it take 30 years of my life with no evidence against me? Where did the evidence come from that we have here today? Well, there's other victims. The Ivies are victims. I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. And the man you see over there is Hank Schwab. He's a survivor. Germany came here today because what happened in Peoria took my family away, as well as James and Connie and their family. And nobody was held to answer for that. Well, today, we don't stand here for Johnny, but we stand here for Connie, for James, and their family.
I had the honor and privilege of walking Johnny out of prison in December of 2006. It's been a 35-year-long struggle. Dr. Martin Luther King said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." And it's time here in Peoria for it to bend towards justice in the case of Johnnie Lee Savory. We'll take some questions now.
Mr. Drisson, if I remember correctly, you might have to update me. The last time I think we were at this road when you guys filed was the court's ruling that the statute of limitations had expired. What has to happen this time to convince the judge that this evidence should be finally tested? I mean,
if it's okay, Denise, I'll defer to my colleague, Lauren.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Denise. I think what you're referring to is the federal lawsuit that Johnny filed, trying to gain access to this DNA evidence. Johnny has relentlessly used the state and federal courts to try to clear his name over the past 35 years, and that was just one instance of him doing so. In that case, the federal claim that he had filed, the court did in fact hold that the statute of limitations had run on that particular claim, but that's a federal claim very different than what we're doing today. Today we are here filing a motion for DNA testing under Illinois law. There's no statute of limitations on the truth here in Illinois, and that's what we're seeking to do.
I know you, Mr. Drisson, had an opportunity you shared with me to look at some of the evidence. Are you concerned about the preservation of the evidence after just about 35 years? The evidence that would be tested in this particular case?
There have been exonerations by DNA evidence of evidence that is older than the evidence in this case. We just want to test it, and we're hopeful that the evidence is preserved in such a way that we can get to the truth. But let's just test it first.
I'll say one brief thing. I mean, I've been involved in an exoneration case, so a lot of us have, where the evidence was stored in a crack box in a truck outside the police department all season long, and they were able to get a pristine DNA sample from that evidence that exonerated 5 individuals, 5 kids, 16, 18, 14 to 16 years old when they were convicted 20 years later. So there's no doubt in my mind the same can be done in this case.
Johnny, what would it mean for you? You've been paroled now for just about going on 6 years. You continue this fight. You said it's important. Could you share with us a little bit about your resolve and what it will mean, as you say, to clear your name?
Not only just to clear my name, but to bring closure to the family also. The truth is what matters, period. and we want the truth. We don't want to continue with the same saga year after year after year. But I'm prepared to fight as long as it takes, as long as I draw breath, to get the truth. It's no coincidence that since I left here, my family has grown, as you can see, and it will continue to grow until they open the doors and allow the truth to come out. As I stated to you before, the Honorable Michael Mills, who I believe will support this very effort here, even though he's not here. The Honorable John Barr. Now, both those men definitely participated in the prosecution of my case. But also, both of those men spoke the truth when they said that there was no evidence to convict Johnny. So, in their own words, let's use their words. And let's go back and get the evidence that was used by the assistant prosecutors. And to the late Joe Gibson, who was juvenile prosecutor at that time, when they questioned the witness, the Ivies, and they knew nothing. Only to come back 4.5 years later and have them to give testimony, false testimony. Well, we won't go into it, but they did not just take the witness stand on their own and fabricate the testimony that they were giving. So now, since all of them have recanted, and the various court rulings that we have relied on, some of them relied on that testimony, especially in the Illinois Supreme Court where the DNA testing the statutes were founded for now, the DNA testing for now. But in all these cases of DNA, why wouldn't you allow the testing to be tested in Miami? Why? And that's the only question that should occupy all the networks, all the newspapers. Why Johnny is being denied the right to have the truth come out, in order to me to get my life back, in order for the family to have closure. My sister today, November 14th, would be her 52nd birthday. 52nd. She died early this year. But she journeyed with me those whole 30 years. So I was denied to be there with her. I was denied to have a family of my own. I was denied all the things that all American citizens enjoy. Now, what happened to all of us is not a norm. But the rarity in it, that you see so many, they no longer know how to put a number with it, how many innocent people are in prison. But it's changed this nation to have innocent people in prison, and you don't do everything you can to give them their life back. We shouldn't need a pardon from the governor or no one. They should be asking us for a pardon.
This is a case where justice has been too long denied. And now that we have the technology to finally prove a man innocent, there's no reason to delay it any further. As many have said, it's been much too long. So now we're looking forward to the right decision to be made in the case of Johnnie Lee Savory. Thank you for joining us on this edition of The Media Connection. I'm your host, Naima Latif. We'll see you again next time. There are people who choose to make a positive difference in the world. Our job is to bring you their stories to motivate you to do the same. Join us each week, host John Alexander and Naima Latif, as we bring you the educators, entertainers, elected officials, religious leaders, and community activists whose works are transforming this world. Find out how you can make a difference too. Be inspired. Watch The Media Connection.